Every morning at 5 a.m., she'd prep the coffee machines and arrange the pastries. Patients, doctors, nurses, they all knew her smile, but none knew her name. They had no idea the woman refilling their coffee had once defused bombs in Gaza. Welcome to Human Stories. Before we begin this powerful story, tell us in the comments which city you're watching from today. And if you believe stories like this need to be remembered, hit that subscribe button. Sarah Levi. That's what it said on her staff card. For 12 years, she had worked in Hadassah Hospital's cafeteria. Every morning at 5 a.m., she would start work, prepare the coffee machines, arrange the sandwiches. She was 40 years old, but her eyes looked older. She always kept her hair in a bun, wore a clean apron. Her hands were rough and calloused, but her movements were gentle. She smiled at everyone the same way. The cafeteria was one of Hadassah's busiest places. It stayed open from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Sarah usually took the morning shift, returning home in the afternoon. She had worked the same routine for 12 years. The doctors knew her. "One coffee, Sarah," they would say. Nurses would chat with her during their breaks. Patients would thank her first when they started to recover. Family members could ask her for tea even in the middle of the night, but no one knew her real name, didn't know her past, didn't know that Sarah Levi's life had begun 12 years ago. The cafeteria was small but strategically located. It opened to the main lobby, was close to the elevators, provided direct access to the emergency service. Sarah knew every corner of it, which machine worked how, what came out of which cabinet, which exit would be used in emergencies. No one had noticed these details. She was just seen as a careful worker. Sarah's most distinctive feature was her observation ability. She would notice every new face entering the cafeteria, note unusual movements. It looked very natural, like just a worker trying to understand what her customers wanted, but in reality, it was much more. She would study the behavior of patients' families. She knew which family was tense, which visitor was suspicious. She had memorized the locations of security cameras, identified blind spots. Dr. Rosen had asked her one day, "Sarah, you're very observant. Did you study psychology?" "No, doctor," Sarah had said with a smile. "I just love people." But the truth was much more complex. Sarah didn't love people. She protected them. For 12 years, without realizing it, she had been Hadassah Hospital's unofficial security expert. Her colleagues knew her as calm and reliable, never late, never complaining, never causing problems. In emergencies, she didn't lose her composure, tried to calm everyone down. Once there had been a patient who had a heart attack in the cafeteria. Sarah had performed first aid, kept him alive until the ambulance arrived. Everyone had praised her heroism. "Where did you learn these things?" Dr. Klein had asked. "From the internet," Sarah had said, but in reality, she knew from intensive training in military field hospitals. At night at home, when Sarah looked in the mirror, she saw a different woman. Hair messy, no apron, but the hardness in her eyes was still there. Her hands had been trained not to hold coffee cups, but to make explosives. 12 years ago, there was no one named Sarah Levi. Then there was Major Rachel Cohen. She had served 15 years in Maglan Special Forces, in one of Israel's most dangerous units. Maglan wasn't a special unit of the Israeli army. It was a unit that operated behind enemy lines, took on impossible missions, whose existence wasn't even official. Rachel had worked there as a bomb disposal expert. She had conducted operations in Gaza, the West Bank, the Lebanese border, explosive traps, suicide bombers, terror attacks. She had danced with death for years. Every mission was Russian roulette. Her most difficult mission had been in Gaza in 2011. Mission at Hamas's main ammunition depot. 12-hour operation, over 50 bombs defused. Only 3 people from the team had survived. After that mission, she had started receiving psychological support, PTSD, panic attacks, sleep disorders. She could no longer hold explosives in her hands. She had left service in 2012. "Build a new life," the psychologist had said. She had taken the Sarah Levi identity, moved to Istanbul, started building an ordinary life. The hospital cafeteria was a perfect choice, helping people, but not killing anyone. Calm, routine, a place where no one asked questions. For 12 years, she had tried to forget her past. The first years were difficult. At night, she saw exploding bombs, battles with death and nightmares, but slowly she had recovered. The cafeteria routine had calmed her. Talking with patients was good for her. Their troubles seemed very small compared to her own traumas. Making coffee, cutting cake, smiling, simple, harmless, peaceful. But the past never completely disappeared. Every night before bed, she would open the drawer, look at her old photos, teammates, successful operations, medals, survivors from the Gaza operation, Yossi, Michael, Eli. Their lifeless bodies were still in her dreams. Then she would close the drawer, put on the Sarah Levi mask again. Old Rachel Cohen had to remain buried. Her neighbors knew her as kind but distant. She would go to the market early, not have long conversations with anyone. She had lived a perfect, ordinary life. Until this Tuesday morning. Tuesday had started like any other day. Sarah had come to work at 5 a.m., prepared the machines, started brewing the first coffee of the day. The hospital was still quiet. Only night shift staff was moving around. But something was different. Sarah's sixth sense was giving warnings. 15 years of field experience had taught her, when danger approaches, the air changes. At 6:30 a.m., the first security guard came. Avi would drink tea every morning, but this morning he looked tense. "Is everything okay?" Sarah asked. "We got strange calls last night," Avi said. "Many bomb threats. All turned out false, but we're still being careful." Sarah's stomach tightened. Bomb threats were usually harbingers of something. At 7 a.m., the first doctors started arriving. Dr. Mendel asked for his usual black coffee. Nurse Ruth got sweet tea. But Sarah's attention was elsewhere. She scanned the new faces entering the cafeteria. Visitors, patients' families, staff. Nothing seemed suspicious, but her instincts were uneasy. At 8 a.m., Dr. Klein came, looking worried. "Sarah, be a little more careful today. There's a security warning." "What kind of warning?" "Not clear." But something might be being planned. Sarah nodded but felt alarm bells ringing inside. Around 9 a.m., the cafeteria was more crowded than usual. Patients' families, visitors, staff. Sarah didn't break her routine, calmly and orderly served everyone. But her eyes were always scanning. 3 men sitting at the corner table caught her attention. Middle-aged, in suits, but they didn't seem related to the hospital. Their conversation was quiet, but their body language was tense. Sarah approached them. "Can I get you anything?" "Coffee," said one, without making eye contact. As Sarah brought the coffee, she tried to overhear their conversation. They were speaking Arabic, but very quietly. "Upper floor, operating room." At 10:30, Sarah's heart was racing. These men weren't patients' families. As she set down the coffee, one was looking at his phone. What Sarah saw on the screen scared her. Hospital floor plans. She immediately went to the security desk. "Avi, those 3 men at the corner are suspicious. Check them." "Why suspicious?" "They're not patients' families. They're looking at hospital plans." When Avi set off, the men had already left. Sarah's bad feeling was getting stronger. At 10:30 a.m., the first announcement came over the hospital speakers. Sarah's blood froze. "Attention all staff. Code Black has been initiated. All visitors must immediately leave the building. Code Black. Bomb threat." Words she hadn't heard for 12 years suddenly filled her mind. Evacuation protocols, security procedures, bomb disposal techniques. Old Rachel Cohen was awakening. The second announcement came over the speakers, this time more urgent, more frightening. "The bomb disposal team is coming to the hospital. Evacuation has begun. Please stay calm and follow exit instructions." Panic began in the cafeteria. People started running, crowded toward the exit. Sarah stood still, but her brain was working rapidly. How long would it take for the bomb disposal team to arrive? At least 15 minutes. What would happen if the bomb exploded during this time? Sarah quickly scanned the cafeteria. Suspicious packages, abandoned bags, strange sounds. Nothing was visible, but her instincts said something else. The 3 men from the morning. Upper floor, operating room, 10:30. Everything was coming together. Deputy Director Dr. Klein came running. "Sarah, you get out immediately too. The building is being evacuated." "Where was the bomb found?" Sarah asked. "Upper floors near the operating room. But don't worry, experts are coming." Sarah nodded, but she didn't leave. After Dr. Klein left, Sarah took off her apron. Underneath was a black t-shirt. She let down her bun, made a ponytail. She checked her shoes. Comfortable, suitable for running. At that moment, cafeteria worker Sarah disappeared. In her place came Major Rachel Cohen. Sarah took out her phone from her bag. She called a number she hadn't used for 12 years, kept for emergencies. "Bomb disposal unit. This is former Maglan specialist Sarah Levi. There's a bomb threat at Hadassah Hospital. I'm coming to your location." "What rank and identification?" Former Major Rachel Cohen, Maglan bomb disposal expert, 1997 to 2012. There was a long silence. Rachel Cohen? Your file is classified. You're not authorized personnel. You'll be there in 15 minutes. If the bomb explodes during that time, 200 people will die. Will you stop me? Okay, but be careful. We can't take official responsibility. Sarah hung up. There was no turning back now. Sarah visualized the hospital plan in her mind. She had worked here for 12 years, knew every corridor. Operating room on the 3rd floor, 5 minutes by elevator. From the cafeteria cabinet, she took a flashlight, spare batteries, and a small toolbox. Inside were screwdrivers, pliers, wire cutters. She used them for cafeteria repairs, but they would also work for bomb disposal. As she ran toward the elevator, she visualized old training materials in her mind. Bomb types, cable colors, timer systems. Knowledge from 15 years ago was still there. When the elevator door opened, Security Chief Avi was inside. Sarah, why aren't you leaving? Avi, I'm going to the 3rd floor. No one can go there. It's dangerous. Sarah looked directly at him. For the first time in 12 years, she was revealing her true identity. I'm a former bomb disposal expert. I'm an expert at this. Avi looked shocked. Cafeteria worker Sarah was already gone. The woman standing across from him was completely different. Posture, gaze, tone of voice. Everything had changed. Okay, Avi said, but be careful. When she got to the 3rd floor, the corridor was empty. Evacuation was complete. Only security guards remained. Sarah passed them unseen, reached the operating room area. At the end of the corridor was a suspicious package, large, heavy, resembling a medical supply box. But Sarah's experienced eye immediately saw the difference. The box was too heavy for a supply box. Cables were coming out of the edges, and the ticking sound, very faint but familiar to Sarah's trained ear. Sarah knelt down, began examining the box. Her training from 12 years ago returned to her mind. Bomb type, explosive type, timer system. This wasn't an ordinary bomb. Professional construction, complex wiring, multiple security system, Hamas or Hezbollah work. Sarah had encountered such bombs in the West Bank. Sarah turned on the flashlight and illuminated the inside of the box. What she saw made her stomach turn. At least 5 kilograms of explosives, metal pieces for shrapnel effect, and electronic timer. She looked at the digital display. 7 minutes 32 seconds. Sarah's hands were trembling slightly. She hadn't seen such a bomb for 12 years, but her muscles, hands, brain remembered. Old training was coming back flawlessly. First rule, don't panic. Second rule, identify the cables. Third rule, if you cut the wrong cable, everyone dies. Sarah examined the cables, red, blue, yellow, black, white. Classic arrangement, but there were definitely traps, fake cables, reverse logic, double security. She looked at the timer. 5 minutes 48 seconds. The phone rang. Bomb disposal unit. Rachel, what's your situation? 5 kilograms of explosives, complex wiring. About 5 minutes left. This is professional work. We're approaching but stuck in traffic. Can you leave there? No. If this bomb explodes, the upper floors will collapse. Patients in the operating room will die. The intensive care below will also be affected. How sure are you? Sarah calculated the building's structure, the bomb's location, the amount of explosives. Very sure. I'll handle it. Rachel, you haven't done this for 12 years. Are you sure? Sarah closed her eyes, took a deep breath. She remembered her last mission in Gaza, the death of friends, psychological collapse, everything, but now it was different. 12 years of peace had healed her. I'm sure.